Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video. Having a look at the ECM extended model for today's second video for the UK and for the rest of Europe as well. So this is our extended European outlook. It's a 30-day forecast, but we also look at 5 and 6 week data as well. So yeah, I shall get on that for you in a second. Just say that the first video was our 7 AM forecast. We've got a 10 to 14 day with all of the red features coming up for you later on this afternoon. Please like, share, subscribe on videos. Thank you so much everybody for doing that. And thank you to ECMWF.int for supplying the data. Right, so here we go then. We're starting off with the week 1 mean sea level pressure anomaly for Northern Europe. This is how we're looking this week. It's going to take us from the 25th of October to the 1st of November. So low pressure will be dominating in the North Atlantic. So much of Northern and Western Europe will be dominated by low pressure, bringing in the jet stream this week from off the Atlantic. So clearly it's going to be unsettled right way across Western and Northwest Europe. At the same time, over in the east of Europe, we have this large area of high pressure that will keep things much drier through eastern parts of Europe. And it should pull up some pretty mild air from the south as well. Although I think in the southeast corner, we might bring in some cold air, you know, to the eastern part of the Mediterranean. But essentially, East Europe is high pressure, Western Europe dominated by low pressure. The 500 millibar height only for week 1 picks this up quite nicely. So again, we've got the below average heights, low pressure in the Atlantic and through into western parts of Europe. At the same time, we've got the above average heights sitting over eastern parts of Europe. There's a trough through the central part of Med into North Africa, and a bit of a ridge over towards Spain and Portugal as well. But essentially, Western Europe dominated by low pressure, and Eastern Europe is very much under the influence of high pressure. So temperature anomalies look like this. A bit of a northwest-southeast split. So many northern and western parts of Europe are looking warmer than average, particularly so through Scandinavia and around the Baltic Sea into northeastern Europe and northwestern Russia. There we see temperature anomalies between around 3 and 6 degrees above average. Widely across the rest of Europe, we're going to be like 1 to 3 degrees above average. So it's a very mild week to come across western parts of Europe. The coldest temperature anomalies are in this southeastern corner in the weekend. So like Italy eastwards through the Adriatic into the Balkans, and then out towards the far eastern and southeast part of Europe and down into the Mediterranean as well. Looking pretty warm, pretty cool through there. Warm through Spain and Portugal and into the central bowl of the Med. And North Africa looking quite cool as well, a little bit unusually so. Precipitation-wise, again, as you'd expect, with high pressure in the east, low pressure west, we've got a bit of an east-west split. So the far northwest of Europe looking wetter than average, down to Spain and Portugal as well. So Spain, Portugal, much of France, Ireland, UK, western parts of Norway, and then northern parts of Scandinavia coming out wetter than average in the weekend. Also, it's very wet down here, just to the south of Italy, into the Mediterranean Sea. But otherwise, really dry across this eastern part of Europe, significantly drier than average, anywhere from around, say, Germany, right the way out towards west of Russia and the Ukraine and the Black Sea as well. So high pressure is in control there, low pressure out in the north and the west. Right, so week 2 will be the 1st through to the 8th of November, and we're looking like that. So we've got this tropic low pressure still across northern parts of Europe, but pushing eastwards and southwards as well, by the look of it. The ridge in the east of Europe is sort of going, and we've got an area of high pressure in the middle of the North Atlantic. So a bit of a mid-Atlantic ridge sends a jet stream on that sort of path and trajectory. So the 500 millibar height anomaly for week 2, again showing that mid-Atlantic ridge idea. High pressure through the North Atlantic up towards Greenland, trough of low pressure, again is extending through the northern and western part of Europe, but pushing eastwards as well, and the ridge is being pushed back to the far east of Europe and west of Russia. We have got some higher pressure down there as well. The week 2 temperature anomaly looks like that. Real flip around. So it's still an east-west split, but completely different compared to week 1. So Eastern Europe suddenly goes significantly warmer than average, especially again through western parts of Russia and then down into the southeastern core of the Mediterranean, no, towards the Middle East, we get it significantly warmer than altitude there, 36 degrees above average. At the same time, it cools down, though, across Western Europe. So this is something we've not seen for a very long time for the UK, for example, and for Ireland, below average temperature anomalies there. Colder than average at around 1 to 3 degrees below average. France also cold average, much of the Low Countries, Belgium, Holland, Netherlands below average. Got Germany and Denmark a little bit cooler than average as well. But going into the Scandinavian peninsula, it does get milder up there. And then we see that we've got Spain and Portugal, particularly northern part of Spain and Portugal, cold on average, as is central bowl of the Med. So the west of Europe goes colder. The eastern part of Europe goes warmer in this week. And then precipitation-wise, that's how it looks. So many parts of Europe turn unsettled, above average rainfall, with that trough of low pressure right away from sort of Scandinavian, Baltic Sea, all the way down to Balkans and into parts of Italy, for example, and into towards the south of France as well. Although the central bowl of the Med itself is actually relatively dry, as is the eastern part of the Mediterranean. Significantly above average through sort of Germany again, and into eastern parts of France, in particular northwards into the Low Countries. So this is an unsettled week to come, although, as I say, much of the Med looks a little bit drier. And, of course, out to our west of Europe, so out to the west of Ireland, looks drier than average through there. That's where we've got back to ridge of high pressure. And that actually keeps Ireland and much of the UK generally on the drier than average side, actually, for the first week of November. Right, week 3 will be the 8th through to 15th of November. Weaker signals now, but still sort of the idea is there, but there's that mid-Atlantic ridge kind of pattern heading up towards south of Greenland. Maybe some lower pressure hinted at, weak signal, but lower pressure perhaps hinted at for the central part of Europe. Otherwise, I'll put in a couple of question marks because it's definitely a much weaker signal that we have there. The 500 millibar height anomaly for week 3. Again, it's showing me above average heights out to the west of the UK and Ireland. Probably some sort of trough coming through there. There's a ridge right over in the far eastern, southeastern part of Europe. Let's have a look at the temperature anomaly for week 3. So again, it is a weak signal. We've got warmer than average temperature anomalies in the Atlantic. That's due to the mid-Atlantic ridge, of course. Also warmer than average, very, very extreme east part of Europe, but more in towards western Russia and then down into the far east of the Mediterranean. Otherwise, it is a very weak signal, but I think probably still hints at being relatively cool on this western side of Europe, to be honest. So you know, it's average or no signal, but probably a bit on the cool side out in the west. And then week 3 precipitation from the 8th to the 15th of November looks like that. So Eastern Europe looks a little bit above average with rainfall, anywhere from like Germany towards the Black Sea. Has, or hints, it's a weaker signal, but hints at being wetter than average through there. But west of Europe probably hinting at being a bit on the drier side, particularly Ireland, Spain and Portugal. And then maybe into this eastern, southeastern part of the Med. Again, looks a little bit drier through there, but otherwise, again, quite a weak signal. Further out we go, the weaker the signals get, of course, and the more unreliable it's all becoming. Week 4 will be the 15th, 22nd of November. Still that mid-Atlantic ridge idea, in fact, perhaps strengthened, perhaps a stronger signal in this week for the 3rd week of November with high pressure in the North Atlantic heading up towards Greenland and Iceland. You would think that that's probably going to bring in wind from the east and the northeast into northern and western Europe, so that could be quite cold. We've got some lower pressure across the far southwest of Europe and hinting at some higher pressure over here. Again, otherwise, I'll put in that question mark. The 500 millibar height anomaly looks like that. So again, lots of high pressure in the North Atlantic. It does extend up towards Greenland and Iceland, which you would think is probably going to bring in wind from an east or northeasterly direction into the northwest Europe. High pressure over on the eastern side of Europe could pull up relatively mild air from the south through there. And we've got a trough of low pressure down across the far south of Spain. Week 4 temperature anomalies look colder than average across Western Europe. It's been a cold November suddenly shaping up after what's been a very warm autumn, certainly for like the UK and Ireland anyway. could it all flip around and turn cold in November? That's what the ECM is hinting at here. So it's below average for Ireland, a little bit below average for particularly southern parts of England and Wales. Scotland also probably hinting at being a bit on the cold average side. France is cold average, Northern Spain and Portugal below average through there. And then over on the east side of Europe, where we've got that ridge, it's a little bit warmer through there. So high pressure somewhere around the Black Sea, pulling up southerly winds into the east and southeast part of Europe, so around Balkans, for example, into the east part of the Mediterranean. Again, we look warmer than average through there. And then finally, we've got the week 4 precipitation anomaly. Finally for the 30-day part of the forecast, anyway. I've got the week 4 precipitation forecast. So it's dry over in this far eastern, southeast part of Europe. That's got that ridge of high pressure. It's wet down across southern parts of Spain into North Africa and possibly into the central pole of the Med as well from that low pressure. And then just seems to be a little bit drier perhaps in the extreme west and northwest of Europe. Otherwise, once again, let's put it in question marks because very weak signals with either average precipitation through most parts of Europe, but more likely as it's week 4, no signal. Right, okay, so that's the 30-day forecast done. Let's just extend out to weeks 5 and 6 because why not? So here we go, Ben. We've got week 5 mean cell pressure anomaly. It looks like that. Again, quite interesting this for Northern Europe. It's going to be from the 22nd to 29th of November. High pressure then becomes like a northern blocking feature. So that Mid-Atlantic ridge goes north and centres between Iceland and Scandinavia, the Norwegian Sea, which, if it came off, would definitely start to bring in easterly winds across northern and western Europe. Low pressure is down here around the Mediterranean and towards Italy. So that looks very classic for bringing easterlies, actually, across much of northern, central and western Europe. With high pressure towards Scandinavia, low pressure around Italy, the easterly wind, would be funneled in to the north and the west of Europe. The 500 millibar height anomaly looks like that. So again, we've got below average heights around here. Got blocking around here. This is proper northern blocking now. Greenland over towards Scandinavia. Seemingly going to bring in the wind from the east. Let's have a look at the temperature anomaly. Again, it's a bit cold on average for western parts of Europe. This is a colder than average November coming up for the west of Europe, if this is right. Particularly focused on like Ireland, UK, Low Countries, Denmark and Germany. Particularly northern and western Germany. But I would suspect probably in reality that the cold average temperature would be a little bit more widespread than that. At the same time, eastern, southeastern Europe looking warmer than average once again. So relatively mild November coming up for the east and the southeast of Europe in particular. And the precipitation anomaly for week 5 looks like that. So wetter than average in the Med. That's where I've got all of the low pressure, of course. Would be very wet actually with this kind of pattern. Drier than average in the north and the northwest. Scandinavia, Scotland, close to that blocking area of high pressure, is a lot drier. And then finally week 6, which is going to take us into December. 29th of November, 6th of December looks like this. And no real changes. That blocking area of high pressure is maintained around Iceland and Scandinavia. So again, this would hint at bringing in easterly winds across northern and western parts of Europe. Low pressure down towards Spain. Yeah, this is a huge flip around. A huge flip for November compared to what we've had so far during this autumn across northern Europe anyway. High pressure blocking with 500 millibar height anomaly around Greenland and Iceland into North Atlantic. It's probably going a little bit more northeasterly, if anything, but would still be cold, still cold for the north and the west of Europe. The temperature, should be below average. So ever weakening signals, but, it still hints that, like, northern Europe is a bit below average. Denmark's below average. Around the Baltic Sea is below average too. But in reality, I reckon, like, with this pattern, like this, most of this area would be colder than average, to be honest. And maybe a little bit further east than that. Same time, this area will probably be warmer than average on this kind of pattern. And then finally, but it's 6 weeks out, so not really worth worrying, man. Finally, we've got the precipitation anomaly. Looks like that. So, yes, again, you can see where the blocking is, where it's driving average. Scandinavia, it's like northern Scotland, Iceland, into the Norwegian Sea. That's where the high pressure is sitting. bringing in those what would be cold easy winds across the northern and central western Europe. Down here we've got lower pressure, so wetter through the Med. It's a weak signal, but you know, based on the mean civil pressure of 500 millibar heights, that is how I think it will work out. Right then, so quite an interesting update, this. A little bit of a shocker, maybe, for those of us that have been experiencing a very warm autumn so far. Is this a flip? Is this a flip that we talked about in the GavsWeatherVids autumn forecast? We said that September, October likely to be warmer than average and a lot of dry, high-pressure dominated weather. Then there's a flip in November. Was it going to be a flip to wet? Was it going to be a flip to cold? This is right. It suggests more of a flip towards cold than wet. But definitely, you know, a significant pattern change for November in the works here. It's only forecast, though. It's just a snapshot of what the EC Extended is showing today. So it might look very different. Look at this on Friday, focusing on the UK and Ireland. You know, all of these blocking signals might be gone by Friday. But today, on this update, it does look as though November could be shaping up to be quite a cold month for Northern and Western Europe, and a very, very significant change on what we've had previous autumn so far. Conversely, the east and the southeast of Europe looks potentially having a warmer month, a milder November down there, perhaps. Right, so that's it for this week's EC Extended. We'll do it all over again next Tuesday for European Outlook, of course, Extended. And again, look at the ECM Extended model focusing on the UK and Ireland on Friday this week. We will do so, we'll find out then how it's looking once more. We're going to be that short with your 10 to 14 day. That's going to include all the regular features, so come back for that then. But for this week's rather interesting EC Extended forecast, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.